why El Mencho hasn't been caught. If you were one of the world's most famous drug lords, would you make it easy to get caught? You might not have an answer, but El Mencho certainly does. In the early hours of a Friday morning in 2020, a sleepy, wealthy Mexico City neighborhood woke up to the frightening sounds of machine gunfire. An open-backed truck and an SUV carrying heavily armed men had blockaded a vehicle, rained 414 bullets on it, killed 3 people, and injured 1. The owner of the vehicle was Mexico City Police Chief Omar Harfouche. Who could have pulled such an attack on a high-ranking security official? One man, El Mencho.
Got an enormous amount of weapons, RPGs, 50 calibers weapons that basically had his own SWAT team.
How did El Mencho rise to become the king of the Mexican underworld? How deadly is the CJNG cartel? How extensive is his drug empire? Why hasn't he been caught yet? These questions are endlessly floating around, and it seems there are no answers. We have come through the most comprehensive insights on El Mencho's reign of terror to answer all these questions. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes was born in Aguililla, a small town in the Tierra Caliente region of Michoacan, Mexico. His involvement in drug trafficking began in the 1980s, and records show he was arrested on drug charges in the Northern District of California in 1994. Prior to that, he had been arrested twice and even deported. He returned to Mexico after serving his term and became a policeman in Jalisco. He eventually left the police and joined the Milenio Cartel, a subsidiary of the more prominent and notorious El Chapo's Sinaloa cartel. His marriage to Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, the sister of one of the cartel's leaders, deepened his relationship with the nefarious group. El Mencho began his rise to the top as one of the assassins that protected drug baron Armando Valencia Cornejo, alias El Maradona. In 2003, El Maradona was arrested, and rival gangs Los Zetas and Gulf Cartel launched a deadly offensive that sent the Milenio Cartel fleeing to Jalisco. In the Jalisco capital, Guadalajara, the cartel formed an alliance with a subgroup of the Sinaloa cartel, headed by Ignatius Nacho Coronel. Subsequently, they became enforcers of the Sinaloa cartel in the states of Colima and Jalisco. By 2010, the leaders of the Milenio cartel would either be arrested or killed. They include El Maradona, the head of the Milenio cartel, Oscar Orlando Nava Valencia, aka El Lobo, his brother El Tigre, and Sinaloa cartel juggernaut Nacho Coronel. Their absence created an opportunity for El Mencho to seize power, but not before a long internal rivalry within the cartel. One faction wanted El Pilo as their new leader, while the other, led by Eric Valencia Salazar, his faction chose El Mencho. The rivalry ended with the latter as the victor, and his sect, Los Zetas Matas, consolidated power over the streets of western Mexico. The faction would eventually change its name to Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, aka CJNG. After El Mencho took up leadership of the CJNG, the group went from an upstart drug trafficking cartel to one of the most feared criminal gangs in Mexico. It consolidated its power by ruthlessly eliminating all obstacles and battling rival gangs, the Zetas and the Knight Templars, for Mexico's largest market share of illicit drugs. In return, El Mencho got both influence and wealth, establishing a reputation for brutality and ruthlessness for himself. By the time the Mexican authorities put El Chapo behind bars and his gang slowly disintegrated from within, El Mencho was in the best position to take over, and he did. The brutality of the CJNG is infamous, and their repeated clashes with security forces have made El Mencho a public enemy of the Mexican state. He has repeatedly shown fox-like dexterity in adapting to the fluid power structure of the Mexican underworld and developed a business acumen built on military aggression, which he has used to expand his supply chain massively. From Jalisco, the supply chain of the CJNG now stretches across 6 continents. In Mexico, their influence covers 28 of its 32 states. El Mencho's rise to power is one of the bloodiest Mexico has seen in decades, and his fearlessness in battling security forces is unprecedented. In 2015, before succeeding El Chapo, one of El Mencho's men was killed by the Mexican army, and in retaliation, the CJNG murdered 15 agents in an ambush. When the government doubled down on them and arrested several cartel members involved in the ambush, the cartel blockaded Jalisco and shot down a helicopter with a bazooka. It was a terrifying show of El Mencho's firepower. A brutal chess move by a man whose love for cockfighting has gotten him the name King of the Roosters. 3 years later, the CJNG made the assassination attempt mentioned at the beginning of the video. Former police chief of Mexico, Omar Harfouch, had fired 414 bullets at him and miraculously survived. 2 of his bodyguards and a passerby were not so lucky. In response, the government arrested El Mencho's wife, Rosalinda. When she was arrested for the second time in 2021, the cartel reciprocated the friendly gesture with the infamous abduction of 2 Mexican Marines. The soldiers were kidnapped in Guadalajara, Jalisco, just a day after her arrest. El Mencho's rivals fare worse than soldiers. In March 2017, a former CJNG member, El Cholo, narrowly escaped an assassination attempt. He had co-founded a rival gang, Nueva Plaza Cartel, with Eric Valencia Salazar, the CJNG top shot that had helped El Mencho become the leader of the cartel. In 2021, El Cholo's body was discovered under a park bench. He had been stabbed to death and wrapped in plastic. The list goes on and on. The CJNG has uploaded gruesome videos to YouTube of their executions, and in a now-deleted video, they made a father watch while they detonated his son. But even that does not beat the gory scene of 35 rival gang members tortured and killed years ago. The gang, which emerged from the dust of El Chapo's shattered empire, now outmatches his Sinaloa cartel in sheer viciousness. Their bloodthirst is a reflection of El Mencho's savagery. Unlike Chapo, murder is not a necessary part of the business for El Mencho. It is an extension of his sadism, and his cartel's killings are accompanied by severe torture of the victims. With such infamy, El Mencho has managed to establish a quasi-mythical figure, albeit an elusive one. According to the DEA, the CJNG smuggles tons of meth and fentanyl into the United States every month, making El Mencho's arrest a priority for the Drug Regulatory Agency. Both the US and Mexico had started a massive search for El Mencho, yet the last known sighting of the Lord of the Roosters was in 2012, when he narrowly escaped arrest. In fact, all pictures of him on the internet are from his youthful days. After several years in hiding, rumors have spread of El Mencho's death. Although there is no credible evidence, it is believed that El Mencho suffers from kidney disease. In 2020, it was reported that he had built a private clinic in Alquihuatl, a village about 250 kilometers southwest of Jalisco's capital, Guadalajara. Its location in a CJNG stronghold ensures El Mencho would have easy access to healthcare while maintaining its secrecy. It is in Guadalajara that the CJNG cartel shot down a military helicopter. Due to his long disappearance from the public eye, some claim that he had finally succumbed to his sickness. The Mexican government, however, discredits the rumor and believes El Mencho is still in hiding. So we know why it's been hard to catch. The man is practically a ruthless, cunning ghost. Still, authorities have fought people just as notorious. So the question we have to ask remains, why hasn't El Mencho been caught? In 2022, millions of emails from top Mexican military leaders leaked. Known as the Guacamaya leaks, it revealed the massive amount of secret intelligence the Ministry of Defense had on the CJNG. The military seems to have tabs on all of the cartel's tentacles, which have spread all over Mexico. The CJNG even has a presence in Aguascalientes, the smallest of the 32 Mexican states. Despite the enormous pile of information the military has, secret operations have failed repeatedly. El Mencho has successfully evaded the police net for years, and his whereabouts remain unknown. In many ways, El Mencho has become a ghost, and efforts to find him have been in vain. Little is known about him, and his ability to stay under the radar is attributed to his discipline. Unlike El Chapo, who lived lavishly, his successor prefers to stay away from the spotlight and ignores the luxurious lifestyle that several Mexican crime bosses before him were drawn to. Guillermo Valdez, former head of Mexico's National Intelligence Center, believes the army has not done enough to put El Mencho behind bars. A grievous error in the manhunt for El Mencho has been the kingpin strategy. Successive Mexican governments have consistently devoted resources and time to apprehending the criminal heads of the drug cartels. When the crime bosses are captured, their drug empires crumble from within. However, as the capture of Pablo Escobar and El Chapo has shown, the absence of these often charismatic criminal leaders creates a power vacuum that another upstart inevitably fills, and the cycle begins again. The arrest of El Chapo and other drug lords by the government of Enrique Peña Nieto paved the road for El Mencho's rise to power, and he announced his claim to the throne in spectacular fashion. In August 2016, a year after El Chapo's arrest, 6 members of the CJNG crashed the birthday party of El Chapo's son, Ivan Alfredo Guzman. Ivan, his brother Jesus, and 15 of his friends were partying in Puerto Vallarta when gunmen interrupted the merriment and kidnapped El Chapo's sons. The men were held until their incarcerated father facilitated a deal with El Mencho, $2 million and several kilos of drugs. The money meant little to El Mencho. Ivan and Jesus had made the mistake of partying in El Mencho's turf, and Daddy was not around to guarantee their safety. In other words, there was a new boss, and with a breath, he could do as he wished. The present Manuel López Obrador administration has repeatedly used a retaliation and firepower strategy to weaken the CJNG. Each time the cartel strikes the military, the government responds by apprehending one of its top shots. From the arrest of El Mencho's wife, Rosalinda, to the imprisonment of his son, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, the strategy has unfortunately only led to more aggression from the CJNG. The hostility of El Mencho's CJNG towards the state surpasses that of any cartel before them. They have blockaded entire cities, enforced curfews, and battled security forces in broad daylight with military-grade firepower. Assassinations, kidnappings, and torture of security guards are tools for power and control used more publicly than other major cartels before them. The cartel sets the terms, and murder is no longer a way of shielding the underworld from public view. It has become a tool for terrorizing locals. According to Human Rights Watch, 60,000 people died between 2006 and 2012 due to drug wars. The current war between El Mencho and the authorities has kept the numbers soaring. El Mencho has gotten infamy as Mexico's bloodiest criminal, and his influence only increases as his cartel's tentacles extend to new territories. While the DEA and Mexican security forces try to smoke him out from beneath the rocks, his territory and drug supply chain continue expanding. In the end, we can only take solace in the knowledge that, like Escobar and El Chapo before him, his Waterloo is inevitable. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you in the next video. Till next time, bye.